to another Minisode of Solidarity Sister with Kristen Wilson. This week, I am going to share with you a little bit about community building within our family units and the powerful connections that we can make with both our living ancestors and even those who have passed away before us. I actually shared a little bit about an experience I had this week in a Facebook essay on my personal Facebook wall, but I tagged the Solidarity Sister podcast Facebook page. So you may have seen that. And in that case, some of what I share here you'll recognize, but not all of it. So stay tuned. When I was a little girl and learned about Polynesian culture, I wished I weren't white, and that I had those rich cultural traditions through dance, song, food, kalua pork anyone, and clothing. When I was in high school, I fell in love with Black gospel music and again wished that I weren't white and I could sing with that kind of soul. When I was in both high school and college, I took a lot of Spanish classes. I was obsessed with Argentina. I even had the flag of Argentina up on my wall in my dorm room my freshman year. I hoped at that point to serve a mission for my church and hoped beyond hope that I'd be called to Argentina. Spoiler alert, I did not get to serve that mission, but my younger brother did, so there's that. In college, I had some wonderful Latina friends and was honored when one of them said I was brown sugar inside. It was a huge compliment to a Latina wannabe. This week, I got to visit my daughter Jane's 5th grade class for Heritage Day and give a presentation. This gave me a beautiful opportunity to connect with my own heritage in a different way than I had before. On FamilySearch.org, I found this. The word heritage brings to mind different ideas for different people, and it should. Heritage is a person's unique, inherited sense of family identity, the values, traditions, culture, and artifacts handed down by previous generations. We absorb a sense of our heritage throughout our lives as we observe and experience the things that make our family unique. Although not every inherited trait, tendency, or tradition is positive, we generally consider heritage to be the positive and meaningful elements of our family's identity that we incorporate into our own lives and pass along to succeeding generations. Heritage can express itself in many ways. Some families define their heritage primarily as their ethnic, cultural, or national identity. Other families can point to values that have been passed on, such as a love for education, participation in community life, a strong work ethic, or religious devotion. People may feel that an inherited aptitude, such as for music or mechanics, athletics, or art, is part of their heritage. After reading that passage, I came to a better understanding of the difference between culture and heritage. Culture is certainly a part of heritage, but they are not synonymous. With this understanding came a whole new appreciation for my own heritage. This isn't just about language or dances or food, but about the qualities, aptitudes, and traditions our ancestors passed down to us. I brought a double boiler to Jane's class that belonged to my great-grandmother, Kate. Kate went to college at a time when most people did not, and especially not women. Our family heritage includes valuing learning and education. Double boilers are great for melting chocolate. We come from a long line of chocolate lovers. My grandpa, Kate's son, taught me how to make his hot fudge sauce when I was a little girl. And I have passed that knowledge on to Jane and my other kids. And when we make it, we think of him, and we even get to use the bowls that I grew up using at my grandparents' house. And it's a very, very special tradition to us. My grandmother used to recite A.A. Milne poems to my mom, and they both recited them to me. This is A.A. Milne, the creator of Winnie the Pooh. And if you haven't looked up his poem books, they're so good. I have, in turn, taught my kids some of those very same poems. Some of heritage is also about where you come from. I pulled up a few maps for the class to show that literally all of our roots are in Western Europe, including Scotland, Wales, Ireland, England, France, and on my husband's side, we add Germany, so our kids have that. And then I shared about a couple of powerhouse ancestors. Jane was named after Jane Johnston Black. She is my great-great-great-great-grandma. She was born in Ireland, and her mother died when she was very small. At the age of 16, her father died. Now, her father was a traveling minister, and Jane used to go on his route with him. He was so beloved by those congregations that after he passed away, they asked Jane to come and preach, which is a huge honor. And I think it would have been some pressure and responsibility, but she rose to that occasion. So from the ages of 16 to 20, she went preaching on his circuit before going to stay with a family that had been put in charge of her guardianship. She ended up learning about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and converting along with her husband. And they were pioneers who came across. They came by ship. They settled in Nauvoo, Illinois, and lived there, and ultimately came to Utah walking about 1,000 miles. They had oxen to carry their gear, but in order to preserve the strength of the animals, most of them walked. Now, I don't know how much you may know about the early history of the church that I belong to, but there was a ton of persecution. In fact, the governor of the state issued an extermination order, and it was legal in the U.S. to shoot a member of our church on sight. The night that the saints were driven from Nauvoo, it was awful. Mobs came. There were 9 babies born that night on the banks of the Mississippi River, and Jane, as midwife, delivered them. It's miraculous that all of those babies survived, a true miracle. She actually ended up delivering 3,000 plus babies in her lifetime. The grit and the fortitude it took. Some of the stories that I did not share with the 5th grade classroom were about the way that Jane protected her family. So as they were leaving, the mob came and asked if she was armed, and she actually pulled a gun from the top of her dress and pointed at them and said that she was, but she would use her gun before she would give it up. The brave, courageous, bold nerves that it would take to be able to do that. She later, as they settled in Utah, also protected her family from an intruder and ended up chasing him away, broke a stick over his head and chased him away. Like, she was brave. She was courageous. She didn't shy away from hard things. They came to Utah, they cleared some land, they built a home, and then they were asked to go help settle another area because they were really good at settling, and she did that. I think I would have cried. Like, if I finally got my land settled and I had a home, and they were like, hey, would you be willing to help this other settlement and go do it again? But she went. She actually helped settle 3 different areas, and I just think that's phenomenal. She had so much spunk and just so much drive. And I want my Jane to connect with that and to know that there is this woman, this strong woman that came before her, that saw some tragedy and some grief and some trauma and some heartache, but she kept going and she persevered. She was committed to her family and committed to her faith, and that's a great legacy to hold on to. William R. Palmer is my great-grandfather. He's actually the husband of Kate of the Double Boiler, and he has a really phenomenal history as well. He was the son of pioneer parents, and he really helped do a lot in Cedar City, Utah. He was the first one to start the Red Cross down there, the first one to start the Boy Scouts down there, and was the first president of that, was a PTA president, did a lot of church service. He was an archivist for the state of Utah and helped collect Utah history. He won a lot of awards, including one from President Truman, but the most meaningful for him was his connection to the Paiute Indian tribe. On May 11th, 1925, William R. Palmer was initiated as a full-blood Paiute according to tribal customs at a powwow. From an article in the Iron County Record in advance of this event, quote, "The women are busy making him a full regalia, and Captain Jimmy is busy learning his ceremonial speech. Squint is making a new pipe that President Palmer will be the first to use. Probably no company of performers have been more eager to do their work well than the Indians in their preparation for the coming powwow," unquote. There's a phenomenal photo collection that can be accessed online. I'll put a link in the show notes. There's one photo I really love showing my great-grandpa with a Paiute baby in a cradle board. He took almost all of the other photos in that collection, and they're mostly from the 1930s from what I could tell, all black and white. One of the things I really love about the photo collection is just how many of the captions include the names of the Paiutes featured. William R. was welcomed into the tribe because of all that he did to better the living conditions of the Paiutes and the loving way in which he befriended them. He knew their names and he knew their hearts. The name they gave him at this ceremony was Tukubin, which means friend. My great-grandpa loved his Paiute friends. He sat with them and learned from them and held their legends sacred until the time that he was given permission to record and publish them. He was the only white man given that privilege. There is an extensive collection of his writings, photos, and artifacts that he had collected at Southern Utah University in the Palmer Room in the downstairs of the library. My heritage was not to have cool dances or hakas or legends or clothing or to be able to sing and dance with the kind of soul just not to be found in this white body. But somehow that no longer disappoints me. Why? Because my heritage is to appreciate and love the people who aren't like me, to learn from them and want the best for them. My heritage is to value other cultures, races, and life experiences, and by so doing, I actually get the best of many worlds. In a Deseret News article after his death, it was said that William R. had, quote, an infinite capacity for love of the downtrodden. I am working to live up to that, too. So now, as I continue the work of Solidarity Sister, interviewing women from all walks of life with a focus on building bridges and strengthening community, I'll be grateful for the heritages I get to learn about and the one I get to carry on. Now, why does my family history matter to you? Research says if you want a happier family, create, refine, and retell the story of your family's positive moments and your ability to bounce back from the difficult ones. So this is my challenge to you. This is me modeling to you. Find out more about your family and cling to what is good. Pass that on. And if you came from an abusive family, pull out whatever is good if you can. Maybe there was an aptitude in music or the arts or athletics or something that was good that you can connect to. And if not, know this. You can create family through the people who show up for you, and you can pass that on to your children. Your stories of chain breaking and overcoming can become the anchor your grandchildren hold to. Though we cannot choose our genetics, there is still a lot that we can choose. Your family stories matter. Your stories matter. And I am grateful for every one of you who share those with me. Thank you for being part of the Solidarity Sister community. We needed you.